It's the weekly 30-30 trading list on the ASX. We're reviewing the 30 best momentum companies over the last quarter and the ones that have had the most significant improvement in the last week. That's the 230 list, 30 best momentum, 30 launchpad, and Gary has been through both lists to pull out the best charts, the ones that we can learn from, and to share some insights that he's found while going through them. Good morning, Gary. How are you?
I'm great, Chris. Yeah, I'm good.
So earlier in the week, we had your ATAA presentation that you recorded with us here and we were able to share with everyone. So thank you very much for doing that. We've had some good feedback on it. Anyone who wants to see, there's a link in the whole playlist of Gary's over there. But focusing our attention on this week, you've looked at the top momentum companies. The market's moved a fair bit. Is anything popping out at you in the momentum or just a lot of, what's coming out to you when you read through the list?
Look, from the launch pad, just seeing quite a diverse group there. Nothing stand out as in terms of like one sector really showing strength. There's just multiple sectors in there. Also seeing a lot of smaller names in there as well, which we sort of know sometimes those smaller names do sort of tend to come in maybe at the end of the market sort of running as well. So that's sort of something to keep in mind. But yeah, I guess a couple of things there. I was actually going to hijack this 30-30 today here, where there's something I saw during the week, but I haven't. Well, I haven't really done that because there was if anyone who follows IBD, Mike Webster, would have noticed that a power trend got activated this week. So that's basically when you get a really strong trend and it lasts quite a long period of time. I think it's something like 10 days above the 21 EMA. I think the 21's above the 50-day for 5 days. And yeah, so it doesn't happen all the time, but it happens quite a bit. But that power trend is when IBD suggests, okay, that's maybe the time to put the foot down. That's when the trend can actually last a bit longer. And I think there had been, because we've just come out of a power trend recently and had a bit of a pullback, then power trend activated again. They had like 87 power trends in the past that have come within a certain time of that, and the average move, the average move after the power trend gets activated was 74 days. So that was last week. The minimum move was 14 days. So yeah, interesting. Obviously, thought the market,
about the whole market or different areas of the market. What's the power?
Yeah, so that was like the index there. So I think it was the definitely the Nasdaq. I think the S&P as well. But yes, interesting. Look, they can always fail. They can always do something different. But I noticed those power trends. We had a power trend out of the COVID low, and that was really powerful. A lot more powerful than everyone expected, and it held for quite a while, and then you're playing catch up. So maybe that's the thing about the power trend, is that when you get a really strong move pretty quickly, because you notice when we sort of rolled off on the index and then we bounced, we didn't bounce in a dull manner like the last corrective period and then roll off another. We bounced pretty quickly, some good volume through there. So I was looking for a B wave in there to roll off, but look, yeah, this is strong, this is fast. And there's volume there. And it's like, well, don't want to stand in front of that. Don't short that. So that sort of showed a strength in that bounce. So yeah, it was just interesting because those power trends, if you go back and study those, and I actually put a link on my Twitter handle there this week, looking at what Mike Webster's research has done. But it's around the same concept that we're pushing here, Chris, is the 30-30 is the relative strength concept. Is that those stronger stocks, when they show real strength, they hold up markets there, they tend to run a bit further here. And also markets, when they do come out of the gates pretty hard and they stay firm for longer than you expect, those are the ones that sort of keep staying pretty firm here. So yeah, I was a bit worried about a broadening top here, like the 60-year cycle. But power trend sort of like that goes against that. So I don't know who's going to win here, the 60-year cycle or the power trend. But it's an interesting concept. Just shows you that the market's been a bit stronger than everyone's sort of thought here, and it can hold you up here. So yeah, I'll be probably looking for the the indices where they break below the last final. I think the Dow has come back quite a bit. So that looks a bit vulnerable. So potentially could come back. But yeah, but interesting there. But the power trend is around the same principles that we're talking about here around relative strength. So it is an interesting concept to look at. Number one on the momentum ranking there is AGC. The cracking score there, Chris, went almost 85. So
60 cents in less than 2 weeks.
Yeah, hasn't really given you too much of a signal in there to trade there, but big score. One stock just to put in your watch list moving forward, because that's had an explosive move, big volume. So you probably want to wait for a pause and see whether we get a ingestion or a little flag or something there. But can't trade that now because it's run pretty hot here. BH2 pretty similar, so big jump here, big volume out of the gates as well. So yeah, big move here. So probably just want to watch. Again, that's a big score as well. So probably just want to watch that, put it on your watch list, wait for some sort of consolidation. RCR, the whole thing's sort of starting to tighten up here. So that's had that explosive move, and now the whole thing's tightening up here. So the only thing with the RCR, and pretty similar to another stock here which was on the launch pad, ARR. It's come out of the gates there. See how volatile it's come here. So with what Kalamagi sort of his favorite quote is, wide and loose is for losers, tight is for winners. So we just don't want to these explosive moves there. When they do have that big pullbacks and range and stuff there, that makes it tricky to trade. They're the ones that we go looking for these tight BCP setups there, but they're big, wide ranging setups there. So they're probably, I'm starting to learn here, these are probably the riskiest ones to trade here, the ones that are probably going to hurt you the most. We really want to see the tighter ones there.
I know there's one that, exactly, you showed me this before.
Yeah.
Like,
so you want to see the whole thing tighten up, sort of, yeah. So you're looking for that sort of tighter sort of setup there. I think, I don't know if VUL sort of had this or not, but yeah. So even this was sort of a bit bigger initially, but then it tightened up, and then it tightened up again. So the VCP did eventually tighten up and breaking up through there. So it did start off a bit wide, a bit loose, but it did tighten up here. So you do want to sort of see the whole thing tighten up there. So that's had a move there. I think LTP just had a bit of a move, bit small there. I only put this on the list there, Chris. I thought if that was just a normal stock, been trading for a few years, I probably wouldn't have looked at it. But because it's a new name, and it's pretty interesting here, and I think I've spoken about this a few times in the past there. There's a really interesting stat about IPOs as well, is that around 80% of IPOs will come back and usually retest the low in the first sort of 12 to 18 months. So, they come on guns blazing there. So you can see that was a 20 cent IPO. Come on, basically almost doubled here in the first session. And it's had a bit of a pullback and a retest there, and it's all calmed down and congested there. Did end up probably breaking this little B wave here at 34 and has run up to 50 cents there. So that's not a bad move if you wait for those names. I personally, with the IPOs, I would wait for a B wave there, or watch for these false breaks as well on the IPO names. That's sort of something I've noticed, is that and I've also seen IBD talk about 80% coming back and retesting the lows. Even some of the big names like Google, Alphabet, Amazon, I think some of those even came back and retested lows there as well. So even some of the hottest names will tend to sort of come back here. I think if I'm not mistaken, PNT as well might have done this. Oh, that's fair. There's the low there. It had a pretty cracking year. Now it's come back and retested that low. I think gone slightly below as well. So just something you see over and over again from these sort of newer names. So I think it's good to sort of keep that stock on your radar there, because that's obviously come on pretty hot, pull back, run again. So it's obviously got some interest in it there. So definitely a name to sort of keep an eye on there. Do some look at, do some homework on there. M4M had a bit of a cracking run as well. It's a lot of small there. And I think MMC, again, another sort of small one as well, which has had a good run there. We did talk about that little VCP, the tightening in here. So even that sort of, if you wait for sort of something like that, little pause in there, a little tightening up, and then we crack through here. So that's sort of gone from 54, 55 here up to 85 cents. A pretty decent move. Just waiting for that better setup there. TLM I thought was pretty interesting here. This is sort of one that's Talisman lining. Again, we've sort of got that with that cup and handle there, Chris, as well. So had a bit of a run up, probably deeper pullback than you'd like. You'd probably like to sort of see it hold the 50%, but wasn't too far beyond that. And then it did come back up, and this looked like maybe a little bit of a cup and handle here, but then this is probably a better cup here and a little handle in there. See, you can see it's through here. Just didn't see, 1 day selling there. Didn't see much through there. See, there's little 1, 2, 3 here. Look at that. No volume here. Even the next day here, no volume there, and then we kick up here. So these little handles underneath the high here, little tight congestion. This is the the Dave Ryan trade here, looking for that tight congestion, just sitting under the high, looking for it, peeling back under the high, but then no selling coming in. That's his sort of signature move. STYM. This one's kind of solid here. It's had a bit of a run here. Had that 1 day sort of selling here. Has pulled back here. It's had good volume again there, but then look at that little 1, 2 days down here. No selling here again. So a little small here, but not doing anything wrong here so far. Kind of a new name too, so I think you've got to keep an eye on these sort of newer names sometimes. There can be some gems in there. CYM. Where we have the LGM. Bit small there. AIS. Again, bit small again, but kind of been building here. We want to sort of see it hold above this high here, which it hasn't done. So that's a little negative there today. It's just starting to see some of the metals, after having a cracking run here, some of the metals definitely starting to cool a bit. Second last one there, I think CHN. This is pretty interesting there, because this is obviously just big volumes down here, Chris, coming out of this low. You say, look, the negative is that we've got, so much overhead here, supply here. So, we've got so many losers in front of us there. It's going to really stop the upside sort of momentum there. But if you drill in here, we can sort of start to see that it's sort of starting to build here as well. So good volume there. It's a bit lighter than pullback. Some good volume again here. Kind of lighter through here. Maybe 1 volume day here. It's still pretty light again. Some better volume coming out of this low here. And then, so...
Did it provide 0, 1, 2, 3? Is that a ballad?
Yeah, definitely got, definitely got that. Yeah, I did see that actually. I just didn't like the overhead supply there, and I had a few other metal names at the time there, so just didn't want to be too crowded in one area there. But the thing I do like here is that look at off the high here, had that little 1 day here, and then we're down here a couple of down days, and it hasn't really sold off here. It stayed pretty tight here. So the ideal setup would be to come back to that old high here, the 154, maybe sit on top of that, build here. So it uses a few days here, because this is sort of, what's this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 days up into the high here. So we want to sort of see this use up a bit more time in here. So see how these just come back pretty deep. So it's overlapping here. So it's still a corrective trend. But then, when you get that overlapping trend, what will either happen is that you'll either break up, sit on top of the previous high, and then build from there, or you might break down, come back and retest the swing low, and then roll off there. So those sort of, McLaren talks about the corrective and impulsive trends, but the corrective trends, these sideways trends, they won't stay sideways forever. So they've got to come out of that sideways there. So there's a certain setup that it does come out top end, and there's a certain setup that it does on the bottom end here. So that's the classic one, is to come back and sit on that high and build there. So that will be really important there, the 154 zone for that stock here. So definitely one to be sort of keeping an eye on here. And we are going to go through a bit of a corrective process here. Chris, we talked about this as well. And that's probably the one thing about that video. I mean, that's, without sort of propping it up too much there, it's probably the most important lessons that I've learned in the market over 20 years, that video. It's kind of a combination.
You're talking about the ATAA one that...
Yeah. So I mean, I've sort of been on a journey the last 3 years in that direction. I wish I knew knowing this. I wish I'd learned that at least a decade earlier. So I'd encourage everyone to go look at that video, but just understand the concepts of what we're talking about there about relative strength, particularly when markets have a bit of a pullback and weakness there. The next sector is going to show its hand. So it's going to sort of step up and show some strength there. And you can go back and look at, one of the interesting things about the video, if you go back and look at gold, for argument's sake, gold came out of October 22 really strong. And it was actually, the movement out of, gold came out of that October 22 low really aggressively. And then when the market pulled back into the December 22, gold just held tight. And that was in a really strong position there. And there's other sectors doing the same thing as well. And some other stocks doing the same thing as well. And some stocks were rallying from sort of before October and then went sideways, and the rest of the market sort of went down into the October low. So you see which stocks were holding up there. But you can go through all the periods of weakness. You'll always see that stocks will be showing some relative strength in that period. And they're the names you just want to be on. So, don't be, sometimes we're sad because the market starts to go down, but we're also got to be, if you've got your defense mechanism in there, you've got your stops in place, and then if you just keep raising your stops as the market goes up, when it does sort of roll off there, the damage should be pretty minimal. You sort of should be able to, at least lock in, say, 97, 98% of your capital there and what you sort of had. So you hopefully you lock most of the gains you've made in, or large percent. And if you get knocked out there, at least you've got your capital. But now that's the exciting period of the market, because if the market does peel off, what we're trying to do here now, we're trying to look for the name. So I'm already thinking, what sectors do I think might be able to outperform here if the market does pull back? What's going to hold up the best? What's going to be the next sector to show these big gains here? Because be honest about it, I mean, banks have had a great run. Some of the miners had a great run. Gold, uranium, silver, they've had a great run. So, everyone's been talking about copper. So yesterday, it must have been 3 analysts come on and talk about copper, and I thought, that's a sell. Got to get out of all the copper stocks because everyone's talking about it, So
if they're talking about it, does that mean they've already filled their book and they're already long? Normally?
No, that's right. They're all coming in there, but it's when it gets to that point when everyone's sort of, saying, you got to have some, it's like no one wanted iron ore until the whole thing rallied 20-30%. Everyone says, you got to have iron ore. It's same with energy. If you think, energy, but energy went gangbusters 20-30%, and everyone's saying, you got to have energy in your portfolio. So you must have energy. These are my energy picks. So we're always talking about, if you're listening on to the media there, and I listen to Ausbiz every day. Not to. There's no sort of negative on anyone particular there, but you get 3 brokers or 3 advisors or research houses there, and they're all talking about the same sector. It's too late. That should be a warning sign that you need to tighten up everything you've got in that sector. Everyone's talking about that because it's already hot. It's already moved. So, yeah. So that was the second last one. The last one there was Nuix. So we talked about this a while ago. Just zoom out here. We can see here that this sort of stock came up and retested the high. So even I talked about this, how it actually made a slight new high, like a marginal new high. In the old days, that would have scared me off. Have a little false break and it peeled back here. But we saw this peel back here. Again, this is a great lesson here, is that this is pullback here. in an A, B, C. Look at that there. So tight, no volume in that corrected phase. So, and then it sort of bounced here. And what do we see? We see volume come straight in here, pulls back here and light volume again. And the volume's gone straight back up again. So it is staying nice and tight here and then. And it tightened up here. Got volume came back in again. And the whole thing tightened. This is the David Ryan here. Go back and retest the high, tighten up under the high, and then bang. So even by that breakout, if you waited, what was that there? Sort of open 221. So even if you're too slow on the gun, just wait for the breakout there. 221 here, we're 313. We've already gone to 318. Really dollar. Dollar on 240, Chris. That's sort of 40, cool 40% of what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. So yeah, well, they're not 5 days, sorry, but yeah, probably 10 days. Yeah. So I mean, it's just got to look for those sort of setups, look for those stronger names there. If you're following Nuix, Nuix have been upgrading its earnings the last 2 or 3 sort of halves as well. So it had a bit of an improvement in the company's fortunes there. But yeah, so that's what we're looking for. That's the magic sauce right there.
So they're the top momentum companies on the ASX, and that parallels with the IBD power trend report you're talking about, which is all about relative strength. It echoes in with you talking about finding the leading sectors, especially when the market's tanked, identifying the next spaces you're going to look at. So it kind of all fits into how you're looking at markets. If we jump to the next stage, which is the launchpad, which is actually kind of a precursor to momentum breakout. You and I have been running through this for a fair few years now. And before they come into this list that you've just talked about, the momentum leaders, they're normally set up in the launchpad first. And those golds, before they ran, you were actually identifying, look, there's a lot of gold names in here. This is really telling me to look at this. I want to go fill my watch list with gold names and trade them when they set up. That's when it's good. You mentioned right at the start, there aren't many, we're not getting any signals out of the launchpad this week.
Yeah.
So
what we're learning there, Chris, too, is those sort of gold and uranium, lithium names, when they hit the launchpad in a big way, and you get multiple weeks there of all the names coming in there as well, we normally get big moves there. So I've managed to trade the last couple there, I think uranium and gold on the back of that. But in hindsight now, I've gone from learning the concept, seeing it too many times, to not being involved. So now I'm getting involved. But now that I'm sort of getting involved in these, I'm realizing that these are sort of much stronger, more powerful than I first thought as well. So these names kick on, and you can probably trade multiple names. You can probably sort of go down the line a little bit, not too far. You don't want to, you still want to sort of stay in the strongest names there, but we can trade a few different more names. And those moves there probably ending up, from what I've seen, the last couple with gold and uranium, those moves have they have been bigger than I anticipated. So I looked at my technical targets there, how they've traded into that range, and you can consolidate it and broke out, and the range break has been bigger than the technical rules that I normally follow, so they've been a lot more buoyant. And the second thing about those stocks that have been showing relative strength and when a sector lights up, is that they're often having a second and a third rally. So they'll have that sort of, they'll race up here like the Nuix. They'll race up here after the break. They'll race up, have this, whether it's a 30 or 40 or 50% rally, whatever it is, that'll show that relative strength. They'll have the break. Then they'll go through another pause again, and they'll go through another congestion period, and then they'll set up again and go again. So I've sort of been trading the break on the relative strength, make my 20-30%, whatever it is, probably under traded that they've gone a lot further than I thought. And the missing part for me is that what's happened is that most of those sectors that really lit up have gone through another consolidation. Because they showed relative strength once, they stayed relatively strong again on the next consolidation, and they broke out again. And that's sort of like something I thought, oh, okay. So if we start to see a sector light up here in the future, we not only got to look at it at that period and trade it maybe a little heavier and stay with it a little longer than we think. Maybe got to use the 20-day moving average or the 10-day, but you really get excited. Maybe trail it. It really moves a lot further than we think. Then we go with it. Or we have to revisit that series again as well, because the one thing I've realized is that those sort of stocks have had a second and a third wave a lot of the time after that relative strength. So yeah, so you just got to keep monitoring for that relative strength. But once it's shown once, they can set up a second or third time here. So really interesting there. So yeah, we're doing this for about 3 years, you and I. So we're definitely learning more about this as we get along. But hopefully, next another year or two here, we'll have it down pat and make it more money, hopefully. So yeah,
We can only hope. Well, at least you're loading up the charts for those top ones. It does echo what you've just said there, echoes the research that we've been doing. It shows that if there's a theme that's leading the market, just like you mentioned, uranium, gold, lithium, whatever it might be, we know that on average, it'll stay within the top third of the themes for about 9 months. So that might mean they're in first and pole position for a while and then drop off and then reload correction in time that you talk about before they reload again. They're still in the top third, but they maintain that top third for an average of 90 days.
Yeah. So that's the average there too, Chris. So you're talking about, so if you get if the sector really lights up and you get really strong names, week up, like 2 or 3 weeks in a row, you might go beyond that average. And for what I was seeing there with uranium and gold and stuff there and some of those sectors, it's often those bigger, the ones that really light up pretty hard have definitely gone on longer than that as well. So you normally got a 3-month move, maybe a 3-month congestion, another 3 or 6 month move, and then you might even get 3 waves. So we digress there. So looking at the launch pad, CXL was one that actually popped out here. This is actually one that I did have on my weekly report a couple of weeks ago there, just because there's a big descending wedge on the weekly sort of setup there. It's it's been in a pretty nasty downtrend here, but there's a bit of a wedge in here. And it's just seeing this heavy volume down here as well. So this has been trending down for a long, long time here. Volume's been pretty light here, but started to see volume started to get active down here. So that can be a possible sign of accumulation finally taking place for the stock here. So this is one that we're probably going to put on the radar here, because it is sort of starting to come out there. And it has just broken a little B wave there as well, Chris, as well. So, okay, by then, might do a bit of work here first. So oftentimes when I've had carnage like this, it can take a bit of a building process. So this is, for me, I'm going to put this on the list there. Hopefully it'll sort of set up maybe like a 0, 1, 2, 3, do a bit of a base building there and then going there. But it's definitely interesting there. Starting to pop out here with everything else showing a bit of weakness is pretty interesting as well. So CAY, just a bit of a small name, had a bit of a pop. I think we talked about the ARR, which was, again, wide and loose is for looters, the losers, tight is for winners. So it doesn't look too bad here, but it is pretty volatile. Like, 44 down to 20, that's a big pullback there. So just a little too volatile there, really. We want to sort of see something a bit tighter here. So one observation I made, I looked on the launchpad, Chris, was I saw a lot of VCPs in these smaller names as well. So see here, we've had a bit of a pullback, second pullback, tightened up in here. And the whole thing sort of did a little burst here. So gone through this little VCP in here. Had a reasonable line of volume there as well. So that looks pretty interesting there on the daily. And when you zoom out on the weekly there, it's a bit of a weekly break as well here. So definitely one to keep an eye on. That's actually quite interesting there from both time horizons there. So F Frontier Energy looks pretty interesting. CAI, just a little BCP in here. It is under the 50-day moving average, a bit negative, but the thing that did catch my eye, Chris, is this volume here as well. So I wouldn't normally touch this, but when I see that type of volume, it's like, oh, there's some activity here. I know there might have been a raise in here or something, but this can often bring these sort of stocks to life. So that so far, still lower high. You want to sort of see a bit of a break there. Definitely one to have a look, maybe do some homework on, see if there's anything real going in there, or is it just raising some money? Nice. AZL, a bit tight as well, a bit small, but whole thing tightening up here, a bit of a BCP in there, but not the best one, I'd say. EGR, bit of a VCP in here, this one here, and I like the volume in the first leg here. Volume in the second leg sort of dried up again, so starting to see volume here. So it's quite interesting there. I look at those time frames there. That's sort of what these ones do break out here. So bit of a strong downtrend for a while here, but definitely starting to see signs of life here. Would like to probably see it break above that sort of 20.5 zone there on the weekly there to be a little bit more pushing there. So probably one to have a look, do some homework on, see if there's anything going on there. CMW, sort of one that I actually had on my weekly report recently here, just in that property sector. Again, just had to bounce off the low here, some good volume, some pretty chunky volume sort of coming in here, then pull back on pretty light volume. Then we're starting to send some good volume driving again, and pull back a lighter volume there. And we've just gone through that little B wave as well, so broken above the 50 as well here. So just sort of signs there, kind of breaking up there. So I just thought it's pretty interesting there. Actually, the daily price action was pretty solid there, but not, property stock, maybe not that exciting there, but still in a market that's sort of probably not showing too many opportunities. That's not the worst thing I've seen there. CMW. PLT was one that I really liked the look of. Again, pretty strong move, impulsive, up into the high here, pull back here, second pullback even tighter, third pullback even tighter here, has just sort of broken what I call a little B wave. But as I mentioned to you earlier, Chris, I really like the look of this, but I couldn't trade this because it was just so not very liquid. There wasn't enough, there was it's just, I think there's like 4,000 or 5,000 shares on the bid and offer. I think it might have been a few $20,000 bids, a few cents below or a few cents above there. So to get in and out is going to be a little bit difficult. So, they all might look great, but if the liquidity is not there, then I just personally won't trade them now. It's like you go into those things and all of a sudden a bid and offer just sort of disappears and there's nothing there. Negative view comes.
You're a long-term investor.
So, it's a bit of a lobster, a little lobster sort of trap there. So you're just going to have some liquidity there. OFX was sort of one that did have a VCP and I didn't see this one actually. So pull back in here, they're having some good volume. Pull back in here and then had another little run again and then pull back here. So the whole thing, little tight VCP, and then it's broken through here and then it's had a nice little jump here. So good volume as well. So, that's probably one of the only VCPs in there that I hadn't seen actually. So, normally I'm over most of them there. One that I did see, didn't trade unfortunately, was New Hope, a little slow here, but gave me a sort of little VCP. So did start to build here. I think on the weekly, and I think I had this in my report here as well. We'll see how we sort of come back and retested the low. So bit of an ABC, bit of a pullback here, and then come back and retest the low. Sort of held that support there, started to build it, and the whole thing tightened up here. So you can see in there, each pullback tighter and tighter and tighter here. So we know as this thing sort of clawed up there. So I knew on Monday it was either going to break up or break down here. And then it had a pretty good update, pretty good news there. So once it gaps up, you can buy that, sort of like that's the game changer for the stock here. So everyone was a little bit worried about how I might report, just whether they're going to be producing enough there, and obviously the cost line as well. So once I realised that they're producing pretty solid there, kept the cost line under pretty tight there. The stock had a nice jump here, so it ran, had that, at least that 3 days. You're looking for that sort of 3 or 5 days and those sort of game changer trades there as well. So that looked quite good there. As I mentioned, a couple of stocks that I did look at was the IRI. I thought that's a nice little tight there. Might need a bit more time there, but thought that was interesting. The PLT, I thought was interesting. This IDX kind of reminds me a little bit of Nuix there, Chris, as well. Sort of had the run to the high, retest the high there. Look how stayed nice and tight here so far. Very tight price action there. Pretty light, not much selling in here. There's one line here which is sort of probably near the low there, and then pretty light again here. So this is definitely one to keep an eye on here. Just sort of whole thing might tighten up here under the high there. So definitely one to keep an eye on. CAT was looking pretty interesting. That's another little beast. I mean, it's had a few VCPs along the way here. I've been VCPs in here, sat on top of the previous high in here, stayed nice and tight and broke through. Now we've sort of got first leg down, second leg down, tighten up here. So, this is sort of interesting there as well. I mean, the trend is still heading higher here. So we're seeing that, a few high lows in there, but then this one sort of sat on top of the previous high, which has left it in a really strong position for a rally. Then it's come back to that old high still. Hasn't really taken off here. That's probably the only negative. It's taken a few weeks to get going here, but the trend is still, it's still on the positive side there. Usually when like this, the surprises sort of come to the upside, not the downside when they've been running like that. I thought ERD was interesting as well. That's another BCP, but again, this was worse than PLT, Chris. This was like I think there was a bid at 80 cents and an offer at 90 or something. It's just can't trade them there. So when they're too liquid, BNT is pretty tight price action there. It's a nice little tight consolidation. Definitely one to sort of keep an eye on. And I think CNI. I thought this was interesting here because the whole thing sort of stayed pretty tight under the high here. So far that's gone to the high, gone back for a retest. Stayed pretty tight in there, doing a lot of work sort of around. So stock's definitely showing some relative strength versus the rest of the market here at the moment. So
Could that, if it maintains sort of the 170, 168, and then sort of compresses, could that build into a VCP?
Yeah, it could do there. It's just, I just like this tight consolidation there, because if you look at that on a weekly, see how, look how tight that is. It just hasn't sold up under the high there. So really, it's gone up here, second retest there, and it's just stayed tight in here. So, oftentimes when you see that tightness there, tightness as well, and sort of even that was the tightness. Still, even though it might have failed, didn't go to a new high, still had a rally before it fails there. So, if you're gonna, even if it doesn't get your target there, if it moves in your direction initially, it does. It is a bit of a sweetener too, because then you can sort of get set and then go, and then it doesn't follow through. At least you probably get yourself to break even most of the time. You can get, I use sort of like 1 unit of risk. If I achieve that 1 unit of gain, I should be sort of getting myself pretty close to break even there once I'm at 1 unit of gain. So there's a bit happening there, but lots of small names there. It might be a bit of a choppy period ahead, but this is the period here where we sort of look at the market, see which stocks hold up. So I'm excited to sort of see what stocks, if we do go through a bit of a corrective process there, what stocks are going to sort of hold up the best here and, and stay firm here.
Well, that's a good point to look at is if we do go through a corrective process in the market, which ones are going to hold up the best? And as you just said, in 3 different ways, that's the relative strength that you look for the next market leaders. That's a good point to say. Thank you very much, Gary Glover from Novus Capital.
Thanks, Chris.
Gary did mention those many different factors and how he looks at the market to find the next leaders. We've got the link below for the ATAA presentation that he did back on the 15th, but we've got it here on YouTube, so you can look at the link there. It's also a whole playlist that feeds into those lessons that Gary's put together in that presentation over the last 3 years, looking at the best traders. He's also analysed and given us examples and worked examples on the right-hand side, a whole playlist of a lot of those setups. Also, he's mentioned in his own report that he shares, and we do it on Tuesdays, portfolio there. There's a playlist of all of those reports. He goes into details of when and why he's putting shares into his portfolios. Finally, he also mentioned Twitter or X, and you can look at his handle there and follow the links and things that he shares over on the left-hand side. And that we say thank you, Gary Glover.